All righty, now we are set up, I think, for the next segment, and I had a request by the producer to make this next recipe that's in the book, and that is peach cobbler, which I have zero problems making because I absolutely love peach cobbler. Now, this is one of those times I'm just using canned peaches. I like the peaches that are not in the heavy syrup for this recipe because I find that a little too sweet. But you use whatever you want. You want about 2 cups and the juices from the cans. If you want to use fresh peaches or frozen peaches, absolutely do that. But you might want to add a little bit of water to them, you put the peaches, sliced peaches in a bowl, add a little sugar to them, and that will make that syrup. Or add just a tiny bit of water, but you want about 2 cups. For the topping, I want to have 2 eggs. So I've got 2 large eggs here. There are 1,001 different ways to make peach cobbler. This is just one of them, one of the good ones. It's delicious. So we want to beat the 2 eggs. We're going to add in a little bit of salt because you need that to bring out the flavors. Then I'm going to stir in some sugar. Okay. I'm going to make up, this is going to be a thick batter. Now I'm going to switch to my spatula. I'm going to stir in some all-purpose flour. I've got a couple of phone lines open if you want to call 1-888-275-9534. Oh, made a mess. Uh-oh. I see Hannah. Hannah's over there watching me. All right. We just want to stir this together. Mess and all. 1-888-275-9534. We're going to make this, I'm going to thin this out just a tiny, tiny bit. You might need to add a little bit of milk to your mixture if you want it to be a little thinner, not too much, but a little bit. Depends on the humidity of the room you're in. It really does. If it's very dry, you're going to need more liquid. If it's very humid, you won't need as much. Now I can switch back to the whisk. Get all that together and then pour that over top of your peaches. And that's it, folks. Oh, look at that. How good that is. That's going to make your crust. Now you want to let this bake at about 350 or so. If you want to, and I think I do, now the recipe doesn't call for this, but sometimes I like to sprinkle a little bit of what they call sugar in the raw, or a raw sugar, Demerara sugar sometimes it's called, and I'm actually going to use that in another recipe. So I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit on top. What this is sugar in the raw, or Demerara sugar, which is just a coarser sugar. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of that. That will caramelize and add just a little bit more flavor. If you want to add a little tiny bit of cinnamon to it, you can do that too. That would be delicious. Pop this in your oven at about 350 for approximately an hour. So I'm going to pop this in my bottom oven. Pam, will you set me a timer for an hour, please? Because that has to bake, and that topping is going to get all delicious and yummy. Okay? Now, let's make some breakfast. I love omelets, and I love all different kinds and all different flavors of omelets. I'm actually gonna make what's called a Denver omelet. Right now, serves one. So this is one of those recipes. Let me get my eye on here. This serves one. This is one of those recipes that's great if you are a single person or cooking just for yourself. But it's also great if you can double it and make it for two. Let me get that little tiny bit of that membrane out of there. Now, I like red pepper, but if you want to use green pepper, you can. I want to melt a little tiny bit of butter in that. This actually is my homemade butter in here. Yes, you can make your own homemade butter. We did that on a program with heavy cream. Oh, so good. But you can just use regular, I like unsalted butter if I'm buying it. Mince up your red onion. We're gonna saute that in that butter. I need my little scooper. I love this little tool. This is another one of those things I get to ask a lot of questions about. My little scooper. Then I wanna add a little bit of onion. A Denver omelet typically does have a little bit of an onion flavor in there. And I've just got some scallions, so that's what I'm gonna use. But if you wanna dice up a little shallot or something like that, it's fine. Or a little red onion, or little red onion would actually work, or a little, just a little bit of onion chives would work. I'm gonna dice those up just a little bit more. Those are actually big green onions. Okay, 1-888-275-9534. I'm gonna turn my eye up just a little bit. So I wanna saute these onions and that pepper. I wanna add a little bit of salt and pepper to it. A little tiny bit. Salt and pepper. And we're gonna saute these vegetables first. I don't need the tops of those onions. I don't want the tops. I just want that oniony flavor in there. Now, let's get a little spatula. 1-888-275-9534 to get your copy. I gotta move my little mat here. To get your copy of the All-American Recipe Cookbook, there are 200 recipes, all new recipes in this book. Now, I'm going to use two different meat products in mine. I have a little bit of bacon because I think bacon tastes good with just about everything. We're going to chop that up, and I'm just going to saute this bacon right alongside those vegetables because I want the fat in the bacon to render, and it'll add even more flavor. So we're gonna saute our bacon. I never put my raw meats on my wooden cutting board. I always use a separate little board that I can just put in the dishwasher. I have several of these little things that I keep on hand, and you can just pop them right in the dishwasher because you cannot put your wooden boards in your dishwasher. You will ruin them. All right, we're just gonna cook that bacon a little bit. 1-888-275-9534. I also have here just a couple of slices of ham, just ham that you would buy to make a sandwich with. Or if you have leftover ham, if you've cooked a ham, this is a delicious use for that. But this is just a couple of pieces out of just sandwich ham. Just gonna chop this up, and of course this is already cooked. So we will just let that go to the side for just a minute. I need my eggs. Where did I put my eggs? Did I even get my eggs? I don't even think I got my eggs. Let me grab my eggs. I didn't get the eggs. You gotta have eggs to make an omelet. Goodness gracious. What are we doing? You need 2 eggs. My mother would always tell me to break them in a separate bowl. And I'm breaking her rule. All right, we want to whisk those a little bit. 1-888-275-9534. Need a little milk or heavy cream, either one, whatever you have. I'll just use the milk because that's what I have here. About 1/4 of a cup or so, not a whole lot. You really are just kind of loosening up those eggs. Just whisk that in. You do need a little salt, a little bit of pepper in your egg. You can totally make these ahead and then keep them in the refrigerator, and then all they gotta be is warmed up for whoever's gonna eat them, okay? Now, I just wanna cook that bacon and saute those veggies just a little bit. So we're just gonna set that to the side. But I wanna do things that you're watching me do live. I adore black walnuts. And there's a pound cake recipe in here that uses black walnuts that is so good. All right, our omelet filling, if you will, is cooked. So let's get that out onto a plate. Okay, let's add our ham in there real quick. Just kind of warm that up a little bit because the rest of this process goes very quickly. And if you're not talking, this comes together in 5 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna put my filling, if you will. Now, you could just leave that in the skillet and put the eggs with it and mix it all together. It doesn't matter. Either way you want to do it is fine. I'm gonna add just a touch more butter because I think eggs cooked in butter just taste so good. All right, we're gonna make this. I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit because I don't want my omelet to burn. All right, I've got my 2 eggs that I've beaten with some salt and some pepper and some milk. Okay, now I want to show you an easy way to do this. Are you watching? You want to take your, I need a wider. You want to take your egg and kind of scoot it to the center as it cooks and let that uncooked part go out. You see how I'm tilting the skillet? I want that uncooked part to flow out. All right. It's very loose. You don't want it to stick. This is one of those times you do want to have a skillet, like a non-stick type skillet. Okay. You see how it's thin and all of the uncooked part has gone underneath? Then you want to take your filling. This is going to be a full omelet, and you want to put it on one side of your egg mixture. Have your plate ready. Now this is just one omelet. Now the French taught us to turn that out onto the skillet in one thing. I just am not that good. So I like to turn it and then flip it out. And there you go. You have a delicious Denver omelet that you could serve. Takes 5 minutes to make. You could have it any time that you wanted. Get rid of my cutting board and my knife. 1-888-275-9534 for your copy of the Everyday Manna cookbook. Serve that with a little bit of parsley on top. You could serve it with some sliced tomato if you wanted to. But there is an easy Denver omelet that you could make any day of the week. Now I'm gonna turn that off. We'll set this to the side. Somebody can eat that while it's hot. Mike, do you want the omelet? It is low carb. He eats low carb as we both do. So he can have the omelet. All right, now our peach cobbler is in the oven. Our Denver omelet is made. Let's get our dishes out of the way. I don't like to put my knives in the sink because I find when I do that, somebody's hand gets cut. Now, we are gonna make a scone recipe. We're gonna make a cranberry orange scone. I need to wipe up my counter. 1-888-275-9534 for your copy of the Everyday Manna Cookbook. I have my ingredients prepped here, but nothing is cooked ahead. Got a little bit of extra flour. And I need the rest of my ingredients here. That's hang on just a second. 1-888-275-9534. This is my glaze for them. All right, we're gonna make a scone. Now, scone is kind of a, I guess you would call it a biscuity type pastry. I love them. I love them. I love them warm with a good cup of coffee. It's just delicious. All right. Now, I did not pick up orange. I forgot to get oranges. So if you have an orange, you will want to zest it. I honestly forgot to pick it up when I went to the store. So we're just going to substitute with a little bit of orange juice. But if you were using the zest of an orange, you would put that in there right now. We're going to add to our all-purpose flour a little bit of sugar. They're not really, really sweet, so you don't want too much sugar. A little bit of baking powder and a little bit of salt. And we're going to whisk that together. Okay, I need half a cup of butter, and I can't measure that, so let me grab a stick of butter out of the fridge. I think 1 stick is half a cup, right? Yeah. So you need 1 stick of cold butter. Make sure that your butter is cold, and mine is. Okay, again, I like unsalted because you can control the salt that way, but if you only have salted, that's fine. This is one of those times I would say don't substitute margarine for this because it has too much liquid in it and it really won't make as good a product. Use butter this time for sure. I always use butter, I just do. But some people use margarine, but not in a baked product. I would not. All right, you want to cut it into, this is cold, cubes. And then drop those cubes in your butter. Now, you could do this in a food processor, but a lot of people don't have food processors, so I wanted to show you another way to do it. Let me just stack these up, make this easy on myself. Cut this into cubes. Okay. Maybe I'm making it easier and maybe I'm not. This is hard. This isn't hard, but it's hard to cook and talk and think at the same time. Sometimes I get lost in the cooking and I forget that you're here with me and I have to talk to you. All right, now just kind of dot your butter around a little bit. Take your fingers, clean hands, cook's best tool. And then you could either use 2 knives, or if you have a pastry blender, use your pastry blender and go in. What you're doing is cutting those butter pieces into smaller pieces. If you don't have one of these little tools, you can just use 2 knives or forks, or even your fingers if you wanted to. You could honestly just use your fingers and then take the butter and smush it between your fingers. What you want to do is break that butter down into smaller pieces. And it doesn't matter that it goes out on the board because we're going to be putting it out on the board anyway. You want to have a baking dish lined with either parchment paper or aluminum foil. Now I want to show you, if you don't have a pastry blender, take your fingers. You see how I'm just taking it and I'm literally just smushing it between my fingers. That's perfectly fine. What you will want to have in that case are like long sheets of butter. Either way will work. Any method that you have of getting that butter incorporated into the flour is perfectly fine. And I think that's probably good enough. All right, since I did not have any zest, I'm gonna add a little bit of orange juice that has the pulp in it. And that will be fine. Stir that in along with some buttermilk. And if you make your own butter, what's left is buttermilk. If not, buy yourself some buttermilk. I just bought that because I've long used the buttermilk left over. Before you get it fully incorporated, you want to have some dried cranberries. I'm just using a 6-ounce bag, okay? So stir all that together. Your oven should be at 425 degrees. Oh, golly, look at that, how good. Oh, these are so good. All right. And again, depending on the humidity in your area where you are, you might need to add a little bit more flour if it seems a little bit moist, but you are going to need to put some flour out on your work surface. So turn that out onto the board, whatever you're working on, your counter or a board, either one will be fine. Okay, let me get rid of this. And work your dough with that extra flour. Not too much, but you want to have a good working dough. I probably have about half a cup of extra flour that I'm just gonna kind of knead it. You see how I'm just bringing it to the center and pushing it out? That's called kneading. And that's when you know if you need the extra flour. If it's still really, really wet, add a tablespoon or so and then go from there. And that's about right. A little bit more. And that'll be good. Okay. Now, pat this out into a circle. I added the juice, and so the orange juice, and that's what's making mine a little bit more moist than what I want. So I'm going to add just a touch more all-purpose flour. If you add the zest, you probably won't need to do this. But where I added the juice, because I forgot to get the orange, I need just a touch more. You want to roll these out to, about an inch or so in height. Let me wash my hands real quick, because I have a mess on my hands. Just rinse them off. That's good enough. So I'm still going to be working with it. And then you can either drop this by the spoonsful onto a baking sheet, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is cut them with a small biscuit cutter. Either will work. Dip your biscuit cutter into your flour if you think it's sticking a little bit, and then cut them out. I'm just making round ones. You can cut them into triangles. You can really do any shape you want. It's your kitchen, your rules. You do what you want to do. And then what I like to do is take a little, like a little bench scrape type thing, and place them on my lined baking sheet. 1-888-275-9534 for your copy of the Everyday Manna All-American Recipes. This particular one is cranberry orange, because cranberries grow in America and oranges grow in America in Florida and California. Oh, I love a good orange. The orange is one of my favorite flavors of citrus. I love a good orange. All right. Now, you can take your scraps, don't waste them, and you can just pat them back out, just like you would biscuits. About the same thickness. And you can get some more scones out of this. This would be a great little Saturday morning treat for your family. You're gonna get about 12 scones if you cut them. This is, what, a 2-inch diameter little cutter. I think I'd probably get one more. 1-888-275-9534. Now, I am going to sprinkle mine with, remember we sprinkled our peach cobbler with our sugar in the raw? We're gonna do the same thing on here. I don't have a pastry brush, here we go. Let me just, let's put a little milk. Wasn't prepared on this step, was I? All right, just a little bit of milk, a little bit of heavy cream, something on top, because that will help it to brown, and it will also help this sugar to stick, because we are gonna sprinkle these with the sugar in the raw. Either one will work. 1-888-275-9534 for your copy of the latest